It's a pleasure to welcome the coach, Jeff Reinebold, and there is CFL news that we'll get to in a moment, but he joins us to talk ball. Hey, Coach, good to see you. Super Bowl 58.
How you
You're
doing,
on your way. Good, Coach. Chiefs and 49ers. How are you feeling about the matchup?
Well, I think it's going to be a great football game. Obviously, you got the best quarterback in the business right now against a guy that was the last player picked in the draft. I don't know if that's ever happened in Super Bowl history. And, two football teams that have earned their right to be there. Now, you can argue in San Francisco, that they have not played particularly well in the first half of games. And if they don't play well in the first half of this one, are they going to be dug in a hole so deep they can't get out of it? You look at Kansas City, and they're winning a different way. Rod, we're not used to a Kansas City football team scoring 20 points and winning football games, but that's what's happened. Steve Spagnuolo has done a great job with that defense. You look at, they played an unbelievable game last week. L'Jarius Sneed making plays at the goal line that most players would give up on those plays. And, here 6 inches away, we hear it's a game of inches. Well, we saw that this past weekend.
I bet you're prepared for me to ask you about Dan Campbell and going at it on fourth down. Because Rex Ryan's defending him. Everybody else is trouncing him. Where do you sit on that?
Well, I think, first of all, you got to have a context with it, right? Because we have the advantage of having, the opportunity to make a comment after the call, right? You got to understand that Dan Campbell has built the culture in Detroit based upon aggressiveness and belief in his football team. And he's expressed that numerous times, on fourth down when it's gone right for him. The thing that I have issue with, or that I would question, is, you can't listen to the analytics guys all the time. As a football coach, in a game situation, you have to take into consideration where you're at with your football team right now. They were struggling on defense, and those two gambles that took points off the board in the fourth quarter were, I think, really, really, really difficult for us to understand. I get it from the standpoint of that's who he is and that's what he's going to do. But sometimes somebody in the system might need to save him from himself and say, Dan, here's the situation. You get 3 here, right? They're not going to have enough time nor enough possessions to win the football game. I look at it, and what was more shocking to me, Rod, than everybody talks about the fourth down calls because those are the ones that stick out to you. But how about an offense that ran the ball 20 times in the first half and then just seemed to forget about the run in the second half, and they were playing with the lead for much of the second half. And I thought that, as much as anything, contributed to the loss of the game, because you're going to get 6 possessions in a half, typically in pro football. And you're up 24-7, you should be able to finish that game off if you just manage your possessions well enough.
And another thing that struck me watching those games was the experience of the Chiefs, Mahomes and their sideline, and the lack of it from Lamar in Baltimore. And even Dan Campbell hadn't been in a game that big ever before. Whereas the 49ers, that was their 3rd straight NFC championship. You've been in a lot of championship games. That really struck home for me, to look around and go, I've been here before. Meant a lot to me.
Well, I think you're exactly right. And, in Lamar did not play like an MVP, had played all year. And I think he's going to be the MVP. And, there were times where I think Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator, they ran the ball. Think about this. The leading rushing team in football ran the ball with their running backs 6 times in that game. And we're talking about a game where they never were behind by more than 2 scores. So it wasn't like you were out, you're down like the Niners were down. They were close, and it was baffling to me. And I don't know, and I think Harbaugh should come under some of the same scrutiny that Dan Campbell's underneath, because he didn't manage the game, in my opinion, the way he was capable of doing it and the way, he's done all year long. The game got too big, I think, for both, as you said, for both the Ravens and for the Lions.
Reminds me of fishing, my guy. I was on the high seas on the weekend, and the guy, do you call it driving the boat? I don't know. Brent goes, if you don't know what you're doing, stuff can go bad in a hurry out here on the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah,
it can on the football field too, right, Coach? Right?
Yes, it certainly can. And I mean, and Dan Campbell, the reason I love Dan Campbell is he's so honest, right? And he could have given us a bunch of coach speak after the game, but I think he really bared his soul. And he talked about how gut-wrenching it is and how there's no guarantee that you'll ever get back again. And I've been in that country he's living in right now, right? It's no fun. And you go, it doesn't matter. I think it's actually worse to get beat in the NFC AFC championship game or the Eastern or Western Division championship game in the CFL than it is to lose in the Grey Cup. Now that seems crazy, but at least you got there if you're one of the last two. But if you're one of the last four and you get knocked out, nobody even remembers who you were, right? Everybody remembers the championship game and the fact that you got to the championship round. But if you get knocked out in that round, in the elimination round, nobody even remembers your name. And so it's devastating and it's heart-wrenching and it's tough on organizations and coaches and players and fan bases and everybody. And both of those teams are going to have to look deep inside and say, okay, what do we need to do to fix this? Because for the Lions, they should be back in the playoffs next year. For the Ravens, they're too good a football team, the number one seed, to lose at home with an MVP quarterback.
You do or should learn from losses like this, but we'll find out whether they do. Now, you please tell me, what is your Super Bowl schedule? I'm hoping we can do this face-to-face on Radio Row. Could you imagine?
Well, I will be on Radio Row, and I will be there Wednesday morning. We've got practices. We're in spring ball right now, so I'm going to leave Tuesday night late, fly to LA, and then catch the morning flight to Vegas. And I'll get my credential, and I'll be in Vegas on Wednesday.
Okay, cool. This is all pretty new to me, Coach. In LA 2 years ago, we did it from a hotel lobby, which was fine, but everybody said, you got to be at Radio Row. That's the place to be. So that's where we're going. And my dance card is almost filled up. The NFL, yeah, it's a different thing. It's an animal. It's a beast, as you know.
Rod, think about this. 55 million people watched the AFC Championship game. 55 million. That's the most that's ever watched an AFC Championship game. And, you can talk about the Taylor Swift effect if you want, but the fact of the matter is the NFL has never been more popular, not just in the United States, but internationally. And the NFL understands how to drive the sport and how to market and all those things. You think about, you're going to Radio Row and the number of people that you will have access to on Radio Row, not just players, but you're talking about legends, coach. I mean, it's unbelievable what that week is like. And the NFL just keeps finding ways to keep itself on the cutting edge of sports marketing.
Well, maybe we can have a pineapple juice and discuss it. But the thing that I've noticed, and this goes back to LA 2 years ago, and I'm seeing it here again, is it's come on in, Rod, come on in. What do you want? What can we get you? How can we help you? Boom, 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 boom. And let me just say, it ain't like that in other places. You know what I mean?
Well, I think, the NFL really, if you study the history of the NFL was not, it was second to college football all the way up into the 60s. And television and really Pete Rozell's vision for what television could do to drive the game is what caused this explosion that we have now and how it has become a worldwide phenomenon and I mean, it's really incredible. I've had the opportunity to sit in those offices at 200 Park Avenue in New York, and I'm telling you, there are some brilliant people in there that are incredibly proactive on promoting their game.
It shows. It shows. So now to the CFL. I cannot let you go. I want your expert opinion on the signing of Chris Streveler. What's Winnipeg getting in him compared to the guy that left 4 years ago, do you think?
Well, I think what they'll probably see, and again, you never know because 4 years is a long time in pro sports, right? That's a lifetime for some guys. I think what they will see with Strev is that he's probably grown as a quarterback, right? When he was in the CFL previously, he was a great athlete, a great competitor, a big, strong guy. And, he gave Winnipeg a dimension that was, hard to defend. You basically had to prepare 2 game plans when you played him. And I think that what you'll find now is he's much more sophisticated thrower. He's had all of those reps, all of that time, all those OTAs, all those mini camps, all of it. So, but he hasn't had his body beat up. And I think that is a big factor. And certainly now when you go to play the Bombers, you not only have to prepare for Zach Collins, you got who's going to be a Hall of Famer. You're going to have to compare for a completely different animal, and how Buck Pedersen and that staff utilize Strev's unique, skill set is going to be interesting to watch. Plus the fact you get a crowd favorite and a tremendous leader. So I think it's a win-win all the way around for the Bombers.
Well, thank you, because today the viewers are writing in. Even Bomber fans are saying he's never going to be more than a backup. And I defer to Etch, who used to say, my props, never's a long time. That's what Etch used to say.
Yeah.
Don't never say never.
Well,
right?
I'm going to tell you something. The reality of it is, in an 18-game schedule in the CFL, how many quarterbacks go through that entire 18 games in the playoffs unscathed, that play every game? It's almost unrealistic for it to happen now. So you don't have to have one, you have to have 2. And again, you're talking about a guy that has tremendous experience and has played at a high level in the league before, understands the league. He's not, you're not bringing in a raw rookie. So I think it's a really, really smart signing by Winnipeg.
Me too. All right, Coach. Thank you. I appreciate this. Good luck with camp and spring ball. We'll see you in Vegas.
All right, Rod. Look forward to it very much.
Thank you, bud. Coffee with a Coach. Jeff Reinebold checking in from Hawaii.